What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today marks the beginning of something that I am calling the 10 days of pumpkin here on the channel. And what that means is over the next 10 days, starting today and ending on Halloween, I am going to be posting a pumpkin beer review video each and every single day. Now, I'm going to be reviewing more than 10 pumpkin beers, and that's because, much like today, I'm going to be doing some comparison videos, and I do have a nice mixture and selection of different pumpkin beers, from OG pumpkin beers like the one I'm reviewing today, to some coffee pumpkin beers, even a pumpkin barley wine, along with a pumpkin farmhouse ale. So it should be very interesting, I think, at the very least anyway. It might be torture, it might be amazing, I don't know, we're gonna figure it out together. But yeah, I thought for the first day, I would start with a beer that I have a history with, that I'm familiar with, and that's what we're doing today. So without any further ado, let's get into today's review. So the beer I'm reviewing today comes from the Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, and they are out of Milton, Delaware, and this is their Punkin Ale. So this is what they are calling a brown ale that is brewed with pumpkins and spices. Comes in at 7% alcohol by volume and 28 IBUs. And at the time of review, this beer is approximately 2.5 months old. So this beer is the first pumpkin beer I ever had. And we're going back like 9.5 years ago. And each year I buy a single bottle of this to kind of revisit it, just to see how my palate's changed, but also if the beer's changed at all. And it's been pretty consistent over the last 8 or 9 years. I really can't tell much of a difference. So this year I thought the bottle I bought would be reviewed, and that's why we are here reviewing it. Now, the one thing I like about the Dogfish Head beer is they actually have a base style. It's a brown ale, it's an American brown ale. And so many pumpkin beers are just, here's our generic ale with a bunch of pumpkin spices and have fun, right? That's what they are. But I like that they come with an American brown ale. Even though the style itself isn't one of my favorites, I do like they start with a base beer and then they throw pumpkins into it. Weird that the label doesn't mention another ingredient that they put in this one. In addition to the real pumpkins and the spices, which are nutmeg, allspice, and cinnamon, they actually use brown sugar in this one. So it's gonna be really fun to give this a proper review, but even more so because I have this beer over here. And this beer is a homebrew, and it comes courtesy of a good friend of mine and fellow beer tuber, Jesse, over at Bumpy Road Brewery. So Jesse decided to brew a pumpkin clone beer this year, and he decided on Punkin Ale from Dogfish Head. So he was nice enough to ask me if I wanted to try it out. And I told him, hey, I'm going to be reviewing this beer, so it'd be awesome to do like a comparison video. And lo and behold, he also did one himself. So I want to give a huge thanks to Jesse for hooking me up with this one, and links to both his channel and the comparison that he did on his channel as well will be in the description box. I would highly recommend checking out not only his channel, but the comparison video he did. It was very entertaining and informative, and I can't wait to do my own. That's why we're here. A couple things I want to mention though is this is a homebrew. This is not a commercial beer like this one. So I'm not going to review it in the same style I review this one. I'm not going to give it a rating. I want to do two things with this beer. I want to compare this beer to the original. I want to see how close Jesse came. And then on top of that, I also want to see which one I like more. That's the two goals of doing this comparison. Again, this is Jesse's labor of love. It's one of his hobbies. He likes doing it. So to break it down like I would be doing a proper review of a commercial beer, not going to do that. And also going to be 100% honest. I told Jesse about that when he sent it to me. I was like, I'm going to be honest with it. So he's all about it because he's a home brewer that actually enjoys feedback, even though my palate's stupid and you can take whatever I say on this channel with a single grain of salt. Just one grain of salt. I told him I would be honest about it. He was cool with it. So anyway, yeah, enough talking. Let's crack these open. Let's get them in the glass. Let's see what we got going on. So I'm not going to do the mat of massive beer reviews, the dual pour that he always does, because I'd fuck it up. I mean, he does a pretty good job with that. It's probably quite difficult. And yeah, I don't want to be bothered with that. Now, Jesse said, now this had a good hiss. Now, Jesse said some of the bottles didn't carb as well as he thought they were going to. So that one sounds like it has a pretty good hiss to it. So I think we're okay. So we're going to give this just, a regular pour like you do. And put this down. And we'll let you guys check out the awesome artwork. Oh, look at that little Dirty Glass Mafia. That's right. First time for everything on this channel. Now, I actually had some Dirty Glass Mafia. When I had the camera closer to my face, there was a couple you guys couldn't see. But anyway, I don't care about no Dirty Glass Mafia. It looks all right. It's not that dirty. There's some bubbles clinging, no big deal. So the first thing you will notice about these two beers is Jesse's is quite a bit darker. Holding them up to the light, This one has almost like this one looks like an Oktoberfest. It has like this rusty copper color, and this one has more of like a deep amber color to it. This one had a bigger head on it, about a 2-finger light tan head. This one also has a very similar colored head to it, but this one looks a little bit more creamier. This one looks a bit soapier. If I'm being honest, I think I prefer the look of Jesse's, albeit a bit darker. It just looks, I don't know, like a pumpkin beer. Anyway, let's get a nose on the Dogfish Head one. Now again, this is 2.5 months old, and Jesse's is probably around a month old. So I'm anticipating the spices of this beer to kind of fall off a bit. But, you know, when you're releasing them in early August, I mean, come on. Just come on. Yeah, I mean, the nice brown ale base is there. I'm getting caramel and a little bit of like toffee, a little bit of nuttiness even. But that brown sugar is there, has a nice like caramelized sugar feel to the nose. A little bit of allspice, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon. The spices aren't ramped up in this one. Again, I think it's a bit faded based on, you know, the age of it. But yeah, I mean, it smells like pumpkin ale. I know that sounds like a cop-out or something that, you know, if you've never had this beer, terrible job by me trying to explain it to you. But yeah, it just smells like pumpkin ale. It just has a distinct smell to it, and yeah, it smells pretty good. So let's get into Jesse's and see where this one lands. Now this one doesn't, the spices on this one actually are almost non-existent, honestly. I'm getting more of like an earthy tone, like almost more of the pumpkin. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can smell pumpkin. You can smell pumpkin. You can get pumpkin character in beers. Most of the time, it just adds to the body. But there's a lot of times I'll drink a pumpkin beer and I get like an earthiness, and that's kind of what I'm getting this. Yeah, this is an earthiness, and this is, again, this is more heavy to like a caramel toffee. Yeah, very malt driven in this one. Yeah, in all honesty, I'm not getting any of the brown sugar in Jesse's clone here. I'm not getting much of the spices. It's more like this earthy caramel toffee. Like if you told me this was a brown ale, I'd believe you. I feel like this is a brown ale. Now these are both 7%. Again, I think this is 7%, 28 IBUs. He went right for the clone. Now, I don't know if he hit the nail on the head with the actual ABV and everything, but as far as I know, he tried to come as close as he possibly could. So, preference for me, Dogfish Head one. It smells like a pumpkin beer. It has spices. It just smells more to what I'm familiar with and what I enjoy. This one doesn't smell bad. It just smells more malt forward, and it doesn't smell like all that. It doesn't have like all the pumpkin spices to it. But regardless, we're going to get into it. So first, let's try the pumpkin ale to see what Jesse's up against. Yeah, that's kind of what I remember this beer being. Right up front, I do get a touch of booziness at 7%. I mean, it's not like, listen, it's not drinking like a 15% beer or anything, but there's a very slight touch of alcohol on the palate. But more of those spices are actually coming through on the palate than they were in the nose. More cinnamon and the allspice. Maybe a little bit of the nutmeg. The brown sugar, the caramelized sugar there is on the palate. The body, they talk about full-bodied, and they've always talked about full-bodied. This is like medium to medium, higher side of medium-bodied. It's not full-bodied, at least not for me. Crisp, relatively clean. There isn't a lot of bitterness. It finishes more with like a spicy finish to it that kind of mixes in with the drying sensation on your palate. This beer is not overly sweet. That's what I've always liked about pumpkin ale. It's not a big sweet mess of a pumpkin beer. Now, I'm not telling you I could sit here and tell you this is a brown ale base, but what I will tell you is that this does not drink like a super sweet, pumpkin just mess of a beer. It just doesn't. It has some nuances, has some edges of the spices and the brown sugar. It's just very refined and cohesive. And that's what I kind of expect from this beer every year. And that's kind of what I get from this beer every year. Yeah, it's a well-made beer. It's pretty damn tasty. I'm not going to rate it yet. I'll rate it at the end. Let me cleanse the palate. We'll get into Jesse's. All right, so thank you, Jesse, hooking me up with this beer to be able to do this comparison. I do appreciate it. We're going to get into yours, so cheers. Let me move this over here for now. First off, I will tell you, this is a vastly different beer than this. It really is. It's actually pretty tasty. First thing I will tell you is the body on this one's actually a bit heftier than this. I'd put this at like medium, and I put this at the higher side of medium. This has a little bit more, actually the body and mouthfeel of this beer, I prefer to this one. I'd say higher side of medium body to this beer. And it has the carbonation. Now, Jesse was worried about the carbonation. It has lower carbonation, but it works. This one has almost like a softness and a creaminess to it that I think most people would want to associate with a pumpkin beer. You want like a slightly creamy sensation to the mouthfeel. Yeah, I think this one, body and mouthfeel, is almost superior to this one. This one drinks like a crisp, clean, refreshing kind of pumpkin ale, and this one has more like, I don't want to say savory, but it just has a creamy, luscious, almost pillowy vibe to the mouthfeel. Now, as far as the actual taste, in all honesty, and again, I told Jesse I'd be honest, Jesse, I'm being honest, this doesn't come off as a clone of Dogfish Head to me at this point. Again, could be the 1.5 month difference, could be a lot of things. Obviously, it's a homebrew and it's just a clone. It's not the exact recipe, but this one is drinking more of like a. Let me go back in and I'll give a quick rundown of what I feel this is like. Yeah, this one is drinking, honestly, almost like a bitter, or like an ESB or like a English brown ale. It has a slight nuttiness to it. It has like a slight copper coin tinge to it as well. More caramel and toffee, almost burnt sugar vibes. The pumpkin I am getting, there is an earthiness to this one. I almost feel like I'm actually tasting the pumpkin in this one, which is very rare for me to pick up on, and I know when it comes to pumpkin beers just in general. But what I do like about it is that it's not overly spiced. I'm getting a bit of the nutmeg, a very slight cinnamon tinge. But this one, where I thought, based on the actual dates of the bottling dates of the beer, I thought this one would be more heavy with like the malt characteristic and the spices would be muted. And I thought this would be the exact opposite. Turns out this one is the one that's muted, and this one's a little bit more bright. Regardless, though, I do enjoy this. This is a solid, easy drinking beer. Yeah, this is like an ESB meets a English brown. It just has that copper coin, a little bit of that nuttiness and caramel and toffee vibes. And this one drinks more like a straight on, pumpkin ale. Did Jesse really clone the beer? Well, all the ingredients that went in, he tried. And again, this is my palate. I don't think this is I couldn't tell you this is a clone of this beer. I could not tell you. It's just the body's different, the mouth feels different, the taste is different, the aroma is different. But here's the thing. This is not a bad beer. This is actually a solid beer. I'm not going to rate this beer, but would I drink this again? Would I have any issues drinking this beer? No, not at all. I actually enjoy this one. Which one do I prefer? The pumpkin ale, or the pumpkin ale from Dogfish Head. I prefer this one because I do get all those spices. I do get, the brown sugar in there, and this is more in the realm of a pumpkin beer. That said, I enjoy both of them. Rating on the Dogfish Head Punkin Ale, 4 out of 5. It's what I usually give it. I'm not going to try and change anything. It gets a 4 out of 5 every single time for me because it's a well-made, well-constructed pumpkin ale. Again, I'm not rating this one, but I will say 2 thumbs up to Jesse for making and constructing and brewing a solid, tasty beer. For me, it really wasn't a clone of Punkin Ale, but at the same time, I'm really not disappointed at all because I do enjoy this one. If you do brew it again next year, Jesse, I'd maybe ramp up the spices a bit more. That would be, my one constructive criticism. I'm not really getting a lot of spices. Like if I could pull out the nutmeg and allspice and cinnamon on this one right now, I think I might prefer it to this one. I think the creaminess of the body to this beer for me, it's something I prefer. So if you could somehow get the spices to be a little bit more bright and vibrant, I would probably prefer your beer. Even though it's not a clone of this one, as far as what I'm tasting, I still prefer this one. But anyway, it's running probably a bit long, I don't know, 15 minutes, whatever. But I'm doing a comparison video. I'm doing it for my buddy Jesse, but I'm also doing it for the 10 Days of Pumpkin and myself. So if you're with me to the end, I do appreciate it. I really do. Hopefully, you guys check out the next 9 days of pumpkin beers because I'm going to be torturing myself, and hopefully you can come and laugh at me. But anyway, appreciate you guys stopping by another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. And until next time, double fisting with the cheers. You thought it was over, right? No, I'm not going to cuvee him. I respect Jesse's beer to not cuvee it, okay? I'm not going to do it. Cheers.